to start off then, I'll give a very brief introduction about myself and how I came to be here today. I worked in policing for 25 years. For the last 5 years of my service, before I retired in 2018, I was managing one of the largest police training facilities in the country. So I've had a background in training and teaching for quite some time. When I left policing, I went to work at the University of Derby. I was a lecturer there for 3 years on their professional policing degree course. The professional policing degree is a new programme that's been introduced to universities across the country. It's a conventional 3-year degree course, and it allows students to qualify to apply to join the police in England and Wales. As a lecturer there, obviously I dealt with students and assignments, and throughout that time I was using formative feedback with the level 4 students to try and improve their performance in assessments. About a year ago, I moved to Staffordshire University, where I am now, and I'm a member of the Institute of Policing. And the courses we deliver here are a policing apprenticeship and a diploma course, an undergraduate diploma course for students who've already got an undergraduate degree, and they can either take the apprenticeship or take the diploma as another route into policing. The difference being the students I teach are all serving police officers. They've joined the police and they are undertaking one of these qualifications in order for them to continue their career. In addition to all that, I'm also a student at the university. I'm in the final year of my Masters in Education, and I'm currently doing some research into neurodiversity in policing. So lots of information there, but the big difference with the Institute of Policing to a lot of other courses that perhaps colleagues are more familiar with is, rather than the traditional seminar approach, we have a new cohort comes into the university at least once a month, sometimes more. They're all full-time police officers, and the modules that they study are timed to fit in around their on-the-job training and practical operational experience. Now, one of the challenges that presents to us is we've got a very large cohort, something around 3,000 students in total. And it's not unusual for 1 or 2 or 3 or more lecturers to teach on each cohort's module. And one of the problems this has created is accurately assessing student progress. Now, I haven't got time to go into the pedagogical principles of formative assessment, but there's plenty of literature on the topic. Irons and Elkington, which I've referenced there, is just one. The vast majority of level 4 students on the apprenticeship and on the undergraduate diploma, they've got no previous experience of producing assignment material to the academic standards that are required for the course. But like all programs, and I'm sure it's the same for all my colleagues here, they are given inputs on academic skills like referencing, researching, critical analysis, etc. But sometimes a transfer of that theoretical knowledge into the practical application for an essay or another assignment doesn't always happen first time. And I'll probably guess that, like many other courses, you give your level 4 students the opportunity to submit draft assignments for formative feedback prior to them making their final submission. And certainly here at Staffordshire, the University Library provides a service for students to make an appointment to discuss their assignments or to submit a draft for analysis. However, these drafts tend to focus on the academic skills and don't necessarily examine the content for subject-specific accuracy or to ensure that it meets learning outcomes. So why do we do formative assessment? Formative assessment of feedback, and particularly for those essay-based assignments, to my mind, helps the students to frame their understanding and focus their attention on the learning outcomes that they've got to achieve. So when do we do it? Well, in my view, and I'm open to criticism on this, my view is the earlier we start to give that formative feedback, the better. And while we do provide assessment briefs and guidance in lectures and seminars, sometimes it isn't until first assignments are marked that we identify those students who haven't quite grasped the concepts that we're trying to deliver. And from the student point of view, it must be really disheartening for them to have a referral in their first marked assignment. So if we can give them guidance before that first submission, it should have a positive impact on their confidence. And what I'm going to do is show you how I use Teams to set up a process that hopefully allows this to be done more effectively. There are many ways in which the process could be done, and in our department we've tried things like setting up an email address for each module so students can submit work, but this creates challenges with staff being able to access it and being able to monitor what's been marked, what's come in, what's gone out. And similarly, some of you might ask students to send drafts to individual tutors, and that can sometimes result in emails being missed amongst all the other stuff that we get sent to us as lecturers. Or if the lecturer is absent and that draft has only been sent to one person, how does anyone else know that it needs looking at? We have Blackboard at Staffordshire, and that is a system that could be used, but here's a disclosure, it's not a popular app either with the students or the lecturers in our department because of some of its design limitations. So those current options is emails to lecturers, group email addresses. We could not bother at all, but what I wanted to do is develop a system whereby students could submit their draft assignments to one place where as many teaching staff as possible could access it, a portal that's easy to use, and also provide some statistical data to support its use. I'm currently trialling the use of Teams to create and mark draft assignments on one module of our course, and if that proves successful, we're hoping to roll it out to all the level 4 modules across the 2 programs that we're teaching. So why Microsoft Teams? Our apprenticeship and undergraduate diploma students are all police officers effectively studying while they're working. And all the forces that we work with use Teams as part of their business processes. So students have to get used to using this facility. Anecdotally, most students find the Teams interface much easier to navigate than Blackboard. And it's also easier to use Teams on mobile devices and tablets, making it more accessible. The delivery of feedback is done in a very similar way to a Turnitin assignment for those of you familiar with that process. The tutor can create comments on the student's work and summarise the feedback. However, because the document is shared in the cloud, the student can actually respond to or question the feedback much more easily. And they can answer comments or discuss their thought processes in a way which allows it to be seen by anyone who has access to the document. The background image in the bottom right of the screen there shows the assignments page in Teams, and that can be accessed through the left-hand toolbar of the Teams interface. And in the next slide, I'm going to show you a video of how easy it is to create a draft assignment. For data protection reasons, I can't show you the live version of the system because it's got student names in it. But what I've done, I've added myself as a student into the demonstration team. So hopefully you can see how simple it is to create an assignment and to assess student submissions. So as this video plays, you can see the general Teams toolbar, and on the left-hand side, you click on assignments, and it shows a list of all the current assignments that I've got access to. If I click on create, I can create a new assignment very quickly, and I'm setting it up in a test team that I've got there. And all you need to do is create a suitable name for the assignment, and I usually give it something to do with a cohort that we've got so it's recognizable, and put in the instructions that you want the student to follow. One submission or writing third person, whatever it might be. You can set a date for completion. Normally I set the date about a week before the final submission is due to go in. I've created myself as a student there and added myself to the assignment. And if necessary, you can add a Turnitin submission point, and other options are there available should you wish to do so. When it comes to assigning it, what I've also done is ensured that the assignment can't be completed after the due date so that students know when to do it and they can't submit late. So once that gets assigned, it appears in my list of assignments that I can look at. So I get a notification there. And when I go into the assignment, you'll see that I am a student there and I've not handed anything in. So what the video will now show, will go into the student view. And as a lecturer, I can actually access the student view and see what the student sees. And this is where a student would upload their draft assignment. And I can actually do it as their lecturer as well. So if they do email it, it can go into this portal as well. So I'll very quickly upload a document, uploads, and as you'll see, once it's uploaded, it converts into a Word cloud document. It's there in the cloud, hand it in, and Microsoft provide a lovely little notification to show that it's there. Then as a lecturer, if I go back and look at the document, I can see that it's been turned in, document can be opened, and it's a normal Word document. And using the facilities available in Office 365, I can select text, I can add a comment, which then appears on that document, and were we able to have me in two places at once, I could actually respond to that comment once it's submitted. I can add a summary of the feedback so that students can get a feel for how they've done overall. Once that's done, it gets sent back to the student for them to read the feedback. So they look at the comments, they look at that summary, and what they can do is once it's been returned to them, and depending on how you want to set it up, the student can actually go back and submit another draft assignment should they wish to do so. So this demonstrates how that happens exactly the same. Another document is created, it's given a slightly different file name, but once that's uploaded, handed in again, the tutor can look at the two documents and compare the two, which is something I don't think you can do in Blackboard. You can't look at different documents at the same time. There's a question appeared in the chat about plagiarism checking. We don't check plagiarism on drafts. We could do, we could assign Turnitin, but on the trial that I'm doing at the moment, we're not checking for plagiarism. We do obviously when they submit their final assignment. But with the two documents there, you can open one, compare the other, and see, has the student actually acted on the feedback that I gave them in the last one? And if I mark the first one and another tutor happens to look at the second one, they can see the feedback that I've given the student in the previous submission. So hopefully you can see how quickly and easily it is to create and access and look at those documents that students have submitted. And in a proper cohort, the tutor will see something like this, which shows the status of all the students within that cohort. And that status column can be sorted so that it shows each category at the top for ease of access. So if you click on it, it will show you who's handed in, who's not seen it, not handed in, not viewed, turned in again. And this means that any tutor with access to the team can go in to see what else needs doing. You can anonymize a student list, which is an option, but that selection only persists during the use of the screen, and it reverts to a names list as you move in and out of the team. And this screen demonstrates how the student submission might look. This is an actual student submission which I've anonymized, and you can see that they've submitted their essay. I've added comments, feedback comments to help them develop. And that formative feedback is aimed at ensuring that students are able to meet the learning outcomes for the specific assignment. For this assignment, there are two learning outcomes, and if I was able to show the whole document, you would see that I've suggested ways in which they can meet that particular learning outcome. It basically talks about evidence-based policing, showing an understanding of evidence-based policing, and demonstrating the ability to research. Now, they're not told whether this assignment will pass or fail. That's done in the final submission because obviously marks have to be checked, moderated, etc., etc. But they are given indications about whether or not they've met the learning outcomes and how they can improve their submission to make absolutely sure they've hit the learning outcomes without actually telling them what it is they need to write. Now, one of the benefits of this process is the ability to use data for statistical analysis. Those ad hoc methods that I talked about earlier don't always allow lecturers to see the overall picture. Unless they create some sort of recording system, how do they know how many students have submitted drafts by email? And it's clear in the short time that we've been using this facility that not all students use it. So we need to analyse why and look at some reasons behind that. Now, the assignments that you see there, they've all been created in the last couple of months, and we're still waiting for the formal marking and moderation of the final assignments submitted by those cohorts who have tried this option. And what I'm going to do in the future is compare the results from cohorts before this group with these current cohorts, and also compare the performance of students who've had formative feedback against those who didn't use the facility. I'm working on the hypothesis that those who take advantage of this facility should perform better and hopefully receive higher grades. And the statistical analysis is there. That's kind of a zoom in on that right-hand side of the screen, which shows how many in the cohort, how many people have handed in, how many have been returned. And the data can be downloaded into an Excel spreadsheet and worked on in other ways. So it does offer some useful options for statistics. There are some limitations, particularly in our department. To reduce our workload, feedback's limited to comments on achievement of the learning outcomes, use of research and referencing, and the general structure of the document. If we had a more favourable staff to student ratio, that feedback could be a lot more detailed. One of the other limitations is the depth in which we can develop that student's work. Because of those workload limitations, again, we tell students that they can only make 2 submissions. But the system does actually allow us to have as many uploads as the tutor sees fit. So if you've got more time or you want to develop that student a little bit more, they can submit more and more. Again, workload considerations need to be taken into account, and fairness. Are you spending too much time on one student at the expense of others? One of the other limitations I've already mentioned is take-up. Not all students use the facility. What I'd like to do is ensure that everyone does this to enhance their performance in assignments. And as the data builds up, I'm hoping to demonstrate the results to students so that they can see the benefits of getting their essays completed early and having that opportunity to receive developmental feedback. So to sum up then, hopefully I've demonstrated a need for providing formative assignment assessment for students. The need for them to be able to understand where it is they're going. And hopefully I've demonstrated that Teams is a workable process that will allow lecturers, particularly in large cohorts where there's perhaps more than one lecturer, to access those draft assignments to be able to see how students are progressing. Teams is a solution we've chosen. There are other solutions out there, but most universities have Teams. Lots of people are using Teams. It's simple, it's easy, certainly easier, I find, than Blackboard. And hopefully in time, we'll demonstrate that it's having a positive effect on student outcomes.